And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode, a special episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast because it's not MLS themed today, sort of. We're talking USMNT. They have just dropped their 27-man roster for the training camp before the Gold Cup. We are going to go through, we are going to talk about some of the players we're excited to see, players we think probably should have gotten a call up, and we're also going to talk about one glaring omission. No spoilers. I'm here with Connor today. Connor, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, my friend. How are you doing? I
I'm
am very
doing
excited for this episode. This is gonna be a fun one.
We haven't talked USMNT in a hot minute, and quite
Yeah, why
frankly,
would you want to?
well,
To
that's
be
ex-
honest.
I felt so bad when I told you we had to do one of these because it's the topic of the times. But my word, that means we have to dip our toes back into USMNT Twitter, and I don't know if I've got the focus and the brain cells for that. So this one might be a post and mute because I don't want to see the comments. We'll see.
Yeah, it should be. It should be a post and mute. I
But
will not disagree with you.
the one thing I do want to see is what sort of scarf you're rocking because you still don't have a national team scarf.
I do not, but I'm rocking a scarf for someone who I don't think will happen, but maybe could see. I honestly don't know if he's been called up before. He might have been in the January camp, but I know he's kind of new to the national team. Very well deserved. Mr. Matt Freese
Nice.
bringing out the NYCFC scarf, and also because I will be going to their home stadium tomorrow, but not to watch them, to watch the Mets, and that's your New York Mets update.
You're watching the Mets rent out a NYCFC arena for the day. That's real nice of them.
It
That's
was
real
very
nice.
nice of NYC. The
To,
Mets even agreed to let them keep their banner up. They said it wasn't going to get in the way.
Sorry, Grace wanted to come in and hang out, and then she heard your voice and was like, "I'm out of here," and was begging to be let out. So
Good.
yeah.
Don't disrupt us, Grace. This is a serious podcast.
Oh, so serious. Number two on FeedSpot, by the way. So if you are listening before we get to my scarf, please go ahead and give us the follows and the subscribes and the likes because it gets us higher up the rankings. And as you know, we are a professional pod. We are trying to do this for a living one day, as you can tell by our very serious demeanor and canter here. So give us a follow on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Give us a 5-star rating because apparently those things matter. Do that. I am breaking out. I've actually got two of these. I've got the One Nation, One Team scarf, which is right here, but I won't take that down because it looks super cool in the Red Bull corner. And then I've got the United States Copa America Centenario
Too
scarf.
soon, man.
I
Too
know, I
soon.
know.
U.S.
RIP.
Copa America scarf. That was probably the last time we spoke about them.
Yeah, and honestly, you're right. It is too soon to be speaking about this again, but we're here. So while we get in this, what I want to do is I want to start by talking about what the roster looks like. So this is for Gold Cup coming up in just about a month or two now. Um, it is 27 players deep. One player will be sent home. You can only take 26 to the tournament. So one of these players will not make it. We'll give a prediction. See who do we think that's going to be. My guess it's one of the goalkeepers. My guess is probably going to be yeah. I won't give it away. I won't spoil it. But let's just go really quick. This is a training camp roster. It's going to take place in Chicago, Illinois. In goal, we've got four of them: Matt Freese, Patrick Schulte, Zach Steffen, and Matt Turner. Very MLS strong there with Matt Turner and his recent FA Cup medal coming in to make up that group. Defenders, Max Arfston is back in the mix. Serginho Dest returning from injury. Very excited for that. Alex Freeman gets his first call up, which is super exciting. He's looked really good for Orlando so far. DeJuan Jones is in there. Mark McKenzie's in there. Tim Ream again. Chris Richards and Miles Robinson make up the back line group. Then we go to the midfielders with Tyler Adams, Sebastian Berhalter, the ghost of Triple G, will never leave this team, and we love it. Johnny Cardoso, Luca De La Torre, Diego Luna back in the mix, Jack McGlynn, which is really interesting, Malik Tillman, and Sean Zawadski. And finally, our forwards, Brendan Aronson, who looked really strong in the championship this year, Patrick Agyemang, Flo Balogun, Damian Downs, Quinn Sullivan, Brian White, the GOAT, and Haji Wright. So just off the bat, your thoughts on the roster. Don't even talk to me about who you think should have made it or who got snubbed. Give me your thoughts on what's the ceiling for this group? How do you feel looking at this group right now?
I like the roster that they put together here. I know it's probably a controversial take knowing USMNT Twitter, but like I think it's a good mix. I mean, for a Gold Cup, it's got a lot of non-MLS players in here, where I feel like at least the last few seasons, it's been heavy, if not all MLS guys in there. And they've kind of just been running that to like justifiably probably give these guys a break after they finish up their seasons. And maybe we'll touch on that a little bit more later. But I like it. It's a good mix. I think there's definitely a lot of strength in this team. I really feel like they're trying to make a statement with this Gold Cup that the Copa America was more of a fluke result than a serious problem for this team. So I feel like they're bringing a few more of the more familiar faces, more of the European guys into this team to try to get some better results here. But I like that they sprinkled in a couple of new guys in here as well. Like Damian Downs, I think is that's a new face to the team. You mentioned him before, Alex Freeman, another new face to the team. So I like it. I think it kind of checks a lot of boxes while still like, giving guys an opportunity, but like keeping the team strong where I think this is a team on paper that probably definitely can be winning the Gold Cup and arguably should be winning it.
Yeah, well, the problem is that they've got Poch instead of Greg, and we know that that's, obviously been the main issue this whole time. No, but I agree with everything you're saying there, right? I'm really excited about the new faces, right? I think this is a group, and we're gonna get into this a little bit later, but everybody's been talking about, oh, this is the last real competition before we get to the World Cup. Like we should be sending our A team and all this stuff. It's the Gold Cup. I don't know if you can classify games against Trinidad and Tobago and the lesser of the CONCACAF region as meaningful minutes. And that's no disrespect, but it just ends up being that way sometimes. So I do like how they sprinkled in old and new. I'm really excited to see Serginho Dest get back in the mix. After his injury, we know what he can bring both sides of the ball, and I'm excited to see him get back into it. But yeah, you mentioned some of the new players, right? Super excited for Alex Freeman. I think he's done so well with Orlando this year, and has earned this. This is a really well earned spot. Damian Downs is interesting. Not somebody I saw coming because unfortunately, my knowledge of the second Bundesliga is not up to par, evidently. But 10 goals, 5 assists in 29 appearances in the second Bundesliga. So a good showing, and only starting 62% of those games and only playing in half of the available minutes of those 34 games in the Bundesliga. So he's really only played what, 2,000 minutes, give or take? Probably less than that. Let's see. Yeah, just like 1,800 minutes. So 15 goal contributions in 1,800 minutes at 20 years old. Not bad, right? Definitely impressive. Do I think he gets a look over the likes of like Brian White or Flo Balogun? Probably not. But excited to see Brian White in there as well. Obviously, very well earned. Has been well earned for the last couple of years now. So excited to see him getting back in the mix. And Brendan Aronson, who again looked really good for Leeds. Big focus on Pat Oggiman, though, right? A guy who we're sitting here saying he's the next guy. He's the next guy. Well, he hasn't shown it at Charlotte. He hasn't shown it at the national team. He's running out of time if he wants to make this World Cup. So I think all eyes are going to be on him to say, "This is your chance, buddy. Let's go get it."
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that's you could say that for a lot of the guys on this roster. I think a lot of these guys are like on the cusp right now, and
Mhm.
this is a golden opportunity for them to have a strong Gold Cup and really make it a hard choice for Poch to leave them out when it comes to the World Cup roster. Because like a lot of your key guys that are pretty much almost a shoo-in to come, barring any injuries, are not involved in this. So they're kind of like almost set in stone. And I'd say a lot of this team is kind of up in the air of like, are you going to make it? Are you not going to make it? And if even if you do make it, like, do you actually have any chance of getting game time? Or are you just there for the vibes and training? So I think this is a golden opportunity. So hopefully, players realize that and are hungry and are going to go out there and give it their best just so they can like have that chance to make an impact and get into that World Cup team. Hopefully that's kind of like the sentiment going around.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, and that's kind of the vibe that I got as well, right? You've got players who are withdrawing from the team, right? So I'm just reading on here. Yunus Musa withdraws for personal reasons. We're going to talk about Christian Pulisic here at the end. You've got other guys who are missing because Club World Cup is going on at the same time, so you're not going to see the likes of McKinney. You're not going to see the likes of Weah. You're not going to see the likes of Gio Reyna, who wasn't even included in the group anyway. But my question for you then is we're talking about what this means for these players. Who is going to feel hard done by for not making this roster, right? So there was the preliminary roster that was released. It was 60 players, lots of names that obviously could not be taken to this group, but are listed as alternates, for lack of a better term, if somebody gets hurt or needs to pull out or whatever. Who on that list do you think maybe he's going to feel hard done by here?
I feel like I'm gonna end up saying somebody that like clearly has stated that they are not coming or something like that.
And I'll
So
catch
like
you.
yeah, and so let me know if I do. But one so I will say this before I say anybody's name. Me personally, not because I don't think that they're as good or better or whatnot, I would personally stray away from European players right now just because I really do feel like fixture congestion is a thing, and they have been they're just coming off finishing an entire season. I really feel like they should take the proper rest and make sure that they're not hurting themselves, and certainly not for a Gold Cup. So, me personally, I'm going to stray away from picking any of the European players just because I don't, I think it's totally valid if they, need a break right now before like preseason kicks up very early on. So to stick with MLS guys, one guy that jumped out to me was Jordy Mihailovic. I mean, I
Mhm.
think he had a monster year last year, really bounced back after his struggles in Europe. And, he's not tearing the league apart this year, but he's been solid again. I mean, he's got 8 goal contributions in 1,200 minutes so far for a Colorado team that's doing pretty solid this year. So I would definitely not complain to see him in this team. And then the second, I'll throw out one more. This is going to be kind of a deep cut one here. You'll have to let me. I'm sure you've heard of him because you're a sicko.
If you say Brad
Um,
Guzan, I'm going to kick you off of the pod.
that would be funny. That is a missed
Wouldn't it?
opportunity.
We,
I didn't
we
think
need a
about
fifth
Brad.
goalkeeper.
Yeah, we do. Brad Guzan, bring him in. I'm gonna go for Bo LaRue out
Yeah,
of San
nice.
Jose
Yeah,
as just an outside shot. I don't think he had come in and like seriously challenged to make the World Cup roster, but he has gotten his first professional minutes this season, about 1,000 of them so far for San Jose, a resurgent San Jose, mind you. And granted, again, 1,000 minutes, so take this with a grain of salt. But his per 90s look insane, like
yeah.
across the board. Like he looks like he has been phenomenal for them. I think Who Scored also had him rated as like one of the highest rated Americans so far this year. I think it was a very, very small chance, if any, that he would get this call up. But like, if I saw his name in there, I would not be upset about that.
No, I think those are two good groups, and I think Larue's got to be in the picture soon. I mean, I watched him play a little bit for San Jose. I'm not saying I'm staying up and watching full 90 minutes, but every time he's on the ball, dude, I'm like, oh my, he's gonna make something happen here. A couple other names that jump out to me, and some in the European picture as well, right? So the big one that's been out there that I agree with, Paxton Aronson, has been. I don't want to say he's been snubbed, but he played 33 out of 34 possible games, playing 88% of the minutes for an Utrecht side who finished fourth in the Eredivisie this year. And he had 12 goal contributions. I mean, he was just all over the place. He was rated, I think, the fourth or fifth best young player in the Eredivisie this year. From whatever source that may be, I don't know, but I did see that graphic come up. Would have been nice to see what he can do in this group. The other one, maybe there are two actually really here. One maybe a stretch here. Alex Zendejas playing at a ridiculous level for Club America right now. One of the best players in that group, bar none, and he is not even being sniffed right now. Which, again, it's tough because you're sitting here and saying, well, every time we call him up, and it's the same thing with Josh Sargent, by the way. Every time we call him up, what does he do? He ghosts. Alex Dejas might
Yeah,
have been the worst U.S. men's national team player in the last pool he was a part of, which is not saying that he was poor, like bad, but he just didn't do anything to be like, yeah, you're bang on in. Would I rather have him or Diego Luna? I'm taking Diego Luna all day long, right? But
100%.
but when you're thinking, okay, how does club form play into this? You would think that they'd be in the conversation, right? And one last one, I think Brian Gutierrez probably is feeling a little hard done by as well. He's looked all right for Chicago, but again, I don't think all right gets you into this camp. I think they're looking for the next year who's going to take that step and be a part of it, right? So the likes of guys like Paxton Aronson, for example, might be, and Bo LaRue, for example, might be a next cycle, right? They might not be in the picture just because they're like, all right, we don't have time to get him up to speed in the international game because Paxton Aronson has one cap in 2023. So he might not be up to speed yet. And I'm not saying I know what Poch is thinking, but that's kind of where when I see these players not involved, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, maybe, I'm looking at the roster and it feels very, this might be a weird way to describe it, but it feels very central. Like, I really
Yep.
don't see many wingers on this team. I mean, I know there's probably guys that can play out on the wing, but not like true out and out wingers like Pooley or like Weah are. It's like a lot of more central midfielders and then strikers. So it makes me think maybe Puch is kind of like playing around with the tactics a little bit instead of just kind of sticking with the 4-2-3-1. So if that is the case, maybe it makes sense why you don't see like a Guti or a Zendejas in here. Because I think I mean, Guti can play centrally, but I
Mhm.
think they're like more wingers. But I really like the Paxton shout too. That's a good call.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's impossible to take. And again, remember how, like in 2014, how down bad we were. We're like, oh, who are we gonna take? Jurgen's gonna take every German American that he can find because he doesn't trust anybody in MLS. And there was really no arguing it, right? Now we're here. We're like, all right, we got all these MLS guys that definitely can compete. We've got all these guys in Europe who are on the fringe. And again, think of the players we're not bringing, right? We're not bringing McKennie. We're not bringing Musa, who has not looked very good this year from all the reports I'm seeing. Again, I'm not watching Milan week in and week out, but he hasn't stood out being like, oh, this is one of the best players, right? You're not taking Anthony Robinson at the left because he's been banged up and injured. You're not taking Joe Scally because you kind of know what you get with him already, right? So
Mhm.
I, I guess before we go into the big topic of the day, what are your expectations? I mean, you kind of mentioned this already, but what are your expectations for the group and what is your concern level if we don't reach them?
I mean, I think they need to win it,
Mm-hmm.
personally. I think even if this isn't your A team, this is still a team. This is still a team that is, I would say, better, and I would almost even say significantly better than the team that won it 2 Gold Cups ago. And, so I think that's kind of the bar. I feel like this team with an experienced coach like Poch should be winning this. And if they didn't, I would definitely have some concerns, mainly surrounding Poch, not necessarily the guys that are in this group, but I would start to have some questions about, is Poch the right guy for this? Can he make it work on the international stage? Because then that would be two competitions, or really three, isn't it? Because he lost the Nations League too.
Yep.
Um, 3 competitions in a row where we'd be disappointing. Like, at some point, you kind of got like it doesn't matter what Poch's CV was, but when he joined, you really got to start asking questions. And I'm not saying like, oh, fire him right before the World Cup. I think that would be a huge mistake, but you really got to wonder, was this the right call to go with him? Should they have looked for someone with more international experience instead of someone who's only been successful really at the club level?
Yeah, yeah. I do want to also put out there that I don't necessarily know if so I wouldn't what I guess what I'll say is I wouldn't sound the alarm if we don't do well. I think it would be disappointing. I think all the things that you're saying are true, but the Gold Cup is traditionally a B or a C level roster, right? I mean, you just mentioned who we won it with 2 years or two cycles ago was an entire it wasn't even the best players out of MLS. It was like the fringe players to be in the January camp. Like it was such a B level roster and we won the whole thing. So you're if we come out of this group and again we fall short, there are definitely questions to be asked. That being said, I think we've gotten rid of some of the ego, for lack of a better term, right? The players who think that they just deserve to be there to be there. So I do think you see a step up in energy and in fight. Like guys like Sebastian Berhalter, who has always been overlooked, has now worked his way into the team. If he's going up against guys like Johnny Cardoso and Tyler Adams for that last spot in the double pivot six, you know he's going to fight tooth and nail for everything that he's got. He's not watching players run by and be like, oh, can't get that. Sorry. He is going to fight to get on that spot. He wants to be there, right? Same deal with guys like Brian White, right? Same deal with guys like Alex Freeman, right? These players who are not usually in this group now are like, oh, I might have a chance here. Let me go for it. So I think I would look less upon the results and more upon the energy, the attitude, the approach, right? Who wants to be there, right? You're going to get guys like Diego Luna who are going to go out and just ball out, right? You're going to get guys like that who are just going to fight for everything, and who can you keep with that too? like keep that culture, I guess, in the locker room, right? You don't want to take guys like Diego Luna and be like, oh yeah, sorry you can't make it. We're gonna put Gio Reyna on, who walks around 70 minutes and complains when we get taken off and doesn't do much, right? Again, that's just an example from obviously the last time he had an issue, right? But I'm excited to see what I hope to see is a team that is ready to fight and defend the badge itself, not just be there to be there. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with you too, because like if you think about 2 cycles back, like we found a lot of kind of consistent mainstay A team USMNT players from that Gold Cup. Like that's where Miles Robinson kind of burst onto the international scene. That's where Matt Turner burst onto the international scene. So like, who's to say we don't find a couple of those guys from this window? Even if we don't win the whole thing, I mean, I still agree that it would be disappointing if we didn't, but at the very least, maybe we find a couple guys that are really pushing themselves to get into that first team and be consistent players there.
Correct, correct. So, we mentioned the group that's here. We mentioned some people who might be hard done by, but there are a handful of players who have chosen not to be here. One of them, most notably, Christian Pulisic. So, a note from the article posted by Paul Tenorio, again, a GOAT reporter, best of the best, probably up there at least. The quote says that Christian and his team approach. This is from Matt Crocker, by the way, the U.S. sporting director. Christian and his team approached the federation and the coaching staff about the possibility of stepping back this summer, given the amount of matches he's played in the last 2 years, both at club and country level, with very little break. To put that in perspective, I saw a stat that said 120 games over the past 2 years. After thoughtful discussions and careful consideration, we made the collective decision that this is the right moment for him to get the rest that he needs. The objective is to ensure he is fully prepared to perform at the highest level next season. As you can imagine, your star player and captain asking to not be called into a camp made some people upset. It turned Alexi Lalas into your basic white girl, where he quoted the tweet and just said, I can't even. And of course, Alexi Lalas, with the following that he did, amassed 181,000 views, 173 comments, and roughly 25 quote comments. Whereas the Paul Tenorio comment or tweet himself has 211,000 views, only 13 comments, and a whole bunch more quote tweets. I figured instead of us sharing our ideas, which we can do at the end, maybe we just go through some of the gut reactions from the USMNT Twitter fan base and just react to those. Because I think that would give our viewpoint a lot more entertaining than just us talking about it. What do you say?
I am very much on board for that.
All right. So the first one that kind of popped out to me, right? This is why no one will buy into US soccer and get behind the team. I guess in relation to star players don't care, so why should the fans? Your thoughts on that sort of vibe right now?
You know what's going to get the fans to buy into the team? Success on the field. And that doesn't necessarily have to come through Christian. We have incredible depth in this national team. This is a great opportunity to look at some new faces and still see them be successful. It's happened before, it can happen again. We don't have to have all of our best players out there. And I really do feel like success from this team is what's going to drive fandom. Me personally, I became a fan of the sport after watching that 2014 World Cup. Had the US gone out there and just got walked off the field every single game, I don't know if I would have stuck with the sport and stayed being a fan.
And been
But
here.
they were just so fun to watch in that tournament. Even if they didn't win it all and they had, disappointing results against Belgium when they had opportunities to win, they were amazing to watch. They were so fun. They were going up against the big dogs and really just fighting hard. And it just made me fall in love with the sport. And it just made me realize how exciting the sport is. It's not just the stereotypical, they're walking around for 90 minutes and the game ends 0-0. There's a lot of exciting moments, a lot of tense moments. There's some amazing games. That's the kind of stuff that's going to get people to become fans and back the U.S. national team. It doesn't have to be with just sending your best players out there to, half-ass jog because you just played 3,700 minutes in the last season. You know, Send a team out there that's going to be hungry and fight for it. They don't have to be the stars every time.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of torn on this one, right? So it's been a an argument for MLS that the casual soccer fan only wants to buy or only wants to watch stars, the best of the best, right? And that's actually something I know you made that comment an episode or two ago. I've made that comment before, right? People go to watch the players, not necessarily the teams at the beginning, right? With the U.S. men's national team, I'm not sure I completely agree with that. I think there's a handful of people who are like, "Oh my God, why would I watch these, C team level players? I never heard of them. I'll never see them again. I'm not going to watch that team." But as we get closer to the World Cup, as we get into more meaningful tournaments, it feels like the buzz should be more than it is, to the point where if we don't have one of our star players or a handful of them in this case, it still shouldn't take away from this idea that nobody's going to buy into US soccer and get behind the team, right? The national team carries a different, I don't even want to say level of respect, but it carries a different like aura, for
I don't know
lack of
what
a
you're
better
going for.
term. Like it carries a bigger like I don't know. I'm gonna use the term aura for lack of a better term, right? Like people respect that team more than the average club team because United States nationalism, my country over yours, like it carries more than just your general club team. So I don't know if Christian Pulisic saying, I've played 120 games in the last, 2 years, and I really haven't had an off season in about 18 months. It'd be nice to get one. I don't think people are going to be like, nope, I'm not watching the national team anymore. I think there are a handful of people who might do that, but the overarching group, I don't think so.
Yeah, and you know what I'll add on to that too is I think the national team when it comes to like big players is different from the club level because with the national team, you cheer for you. I mean, most likely you cheer for a national team because you have like personal roots to whatever country you're cheering for. It may not necessarily be the place you live in, but maybe it's like, oh, my parents are from Italy, so I'd root for Italy, or like I was born and lived in France for a few years, so I root for France. It's not you're not like this may be the case for some people, but I think majority of people you're not like, oh, I'm rooting for France because I like Mbappe. Like you root for France because that's like your nationality most likely, right? So it doesn't really matter what the players are. Like, yeah, you want them to do well, but it's like you don't really care who's out there as long as they're doing well. But like the Premier League in the US is dominated by like the top six teams. That is where like almost all of the fandom comes from in the US. And why is that? Because that's where the best players are playing. That's where I think, you don't, if you're in the US and you're just getting into the sport, it's not like, oh, I have this nationalistic tie to Chelsea. I have this, you know, I live down the street from Liverpool. Like you root for those teams because you like the players that are on those teams. That's where I think the player stardom it plays into effect more so in the club level. Where national team, it's like you root for most likely the country that you live in or the country you were born in. So it's like it doesn't matter what the players are. That's the team you're going to root for.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it's spot on, but there are a lot of comments here, so I wanna keep going.
Okay,
So
yeah.
the next one here, if he needed a break, and I'm paraphrasing here, if he really needed a break, he should have stepped back from Milan, not the national team. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it there. Let you go.
I don't. What is the situation for the national team? Do these guys get paid to play for the national team?
Yeah, but not
Not
remotely
probably not
close to
nearly
what.
as much. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's
So,
it's on a per game basis. I think you get paid like for your performances. Like you get a base like a base like per game, and then if you win certain tournaments or things, you get paid out that way. But yeah, you're not getting paid what you're getting paid at your club.
right. So you're asking him to step away from the team that's paying his wages and is paying for him to live and to have a future. And you're also asking him to step away from his teammates who have been battling the entire year. I understand that they're not in the race for winning the title, but you're asking him to step away from a team that's still trying to battle to get into Europe. I think at this point they might be out already, but they're close enough where it definitely came down to the last couple of game weeks. So you're asking him to just quit on his team so that he could take a little break so that he can come and play Trinidad in the Gold Cup. It's kind of a ridiculous ask if we're being honest.
Yeah, this was one of my favorites, right? We have this conversation a lot, where club versus country, or club over country, or country over club, right? And we went down the rabbit hole of like, oh, people now see European teams as the threshold or as the ceiling, not their national team, right? It's kind of flipped where 10 years ago it was you want to get into the national team or you want to go to Europe so you can be better prepared for the national team, right? Now you want to play for the national team so you can get better prepared for Europe. It feels like that sort of flip. Never once in a million, billion, trillion, bajillion years will you ever see somebody saying, "Hey boss, I know we're in the fight to, move up 2 spots in our table and get millions of extra dollars from TV revenue by the end of the season. But I got the Gold Cup coming up, and I got to go back to the United States, and it's Trinidad, and they beat us in 2018. We couldn't go to the World Cup, so it matters a lot. And I just need like 2 weeks, boss, just 2 weeks. Are you kidding? Are we for real? Like, why is that even? And that's not the only person who said that. I've seen a couple of people put that out, like, he should have stepped back from Milan because the national team is the number one. Like, and this is where I have an issue with the USMNT overall group because it's like just so out of touch with reality, right? It's like you watch a soccer game 6 times a year. That's about it. Maybe you turn on a game if the Premier League's on. You're like, oh, there's Anthony Robinson plays for Fulham. I'm gonna watch them. Maybe, right? There's no basis of reality where it's like, yes, he should definitely have stepped away from Milan and taken time off to play for us. No, stop that.
Mind you, also on top of all of that, Milan was playing in the Italy Cup final just a week ago.
Yeah,
So you're asking him to step away from a Europe like a chase for Europe in the league, and to quit on his team, who is in a final of the Italy Cup.
it's
Could you imagine
can
if it
you
was like imagine it was the other way around, right? Like
literally?
imagine you're going to Copa America, or I won't even say the World Cup because that's kind of extreme, but let's just say you're going to Copa America and Pooley was like, "Oh, sorry guys, like I'm gonna skip Copa America so that I can uh, um I'm gonna take off Copa America so that I can go like play a couple of regular season games for AC Milan. Sorry guys." They would lose their minds over it. I mean, that's kind of what I guess they're saying he's doing now, and they are losing their minds over it.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of the I guess you can say it's the mindset, right? Like you have people here who think the national team is the peak and they don't care about anything else and everything should come to the national team. But in reality, it doesn't work that way. And maybe that's tied into the way that the players are now acting and feeling, right? Like, oh, well, the national team is just secondary to what I need to do in my real job, right? And that's where I can kind of see this idea of like he should be playing, not saying that he should have stepped back from his club, but he should still be playing because the national team should be the peak. I can hear that argument. But this idea that he should have stopped playing for Milan to be ready for the Gold Cup, like the third highest tournament in CONCACAF, take a step back here, right? Just to build off of that, right? There's another comment here that said, super soft, he doesn't care. What's more important than preparing for a World Cup that your country is hosting? And a lot of the responses were, do you really think that playing Haiti and Trinidad and Tobago is prepping anybody for the World Cup? I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
It's certainly not prepping anybody at Pulisic's level for the World Cup. I mean, he's a shoo-in to go. There's not a question of like, he's on the border. Will he make the roster? Like, I get it for a lot of the guys that are getting called in right now. It really is kind of a make or break for them to be in that World Cup roster conversation, but not for a guy like Pooley. Like, he's genuinely the first name on the sheet for no matter who is the manager. Like, whenever you're making a roster, it's Christian Pulisic first name on the sheet, as long as he is healthy. That's not a question. And playing games again, like our struggle, okay, I will say our struggles do sometimes come from these like smaller island nations, but like really where we should be aiming at is to try and take steps against the larger teams, like your more of your bigger European ones, like Germany, France, Italy. Our goal should not be to try to prepare him to play against teams that are pretty much majority of which are probably not going to be at the World Cup. So, I mean, I think that the focus should be on maybe some more of the friendlies later on when we're playing, teams that are more so at our level or slightly above slightly above our level.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. If you need to prepare for a World Cup by playing Haiti, who we have not lost to, since 1973, that's a problem, right? If that's what you need this for to let him beat, and granted, the games have been closer in recent memory, but in 2021, right, we just talked about the team that we brought to that tournament, right? It wasn't top level, but if you need Christian Pulisic to show up and play against Haiti and Trinidad and Tobago, and Trinidad, by the way, who I'm pretty sure the last time we beat them, what, 6-0?
I think that was the Jesus Ferreira game, was it not?
They're all Jesus Ferreira games. Let's be real, my guy. Sorry, no, we lost to them in the Nations League. That's right, in 2023. But the combined scores of the four games before that were 12, 19, 22 to nothing. So, and 2023 was Greg's last game in charge. So, new regime, whatever. Yeah, if you need him to show up to do that, and the other comment was, oh, well, he should be getting used to playing with his teammates and getting chemistry. Even if he brought the entire first team and let them play all 90 minutes of the entire tournament together, the World Cup is over a year away. Chemistry doesn't last for a year because you're going to go play with other people. You're going to go play with other teams. You're going to go play in other systems. And then you got to relearn it anyway. I don't think there's anything here that says he absolutely needs to be here. And on top of all of that, Gold Cup is a B to C team roster tournament anyway. It always has been. Maybe not always. Maybe back in the past we took it a little bit more seriously when we didn't have these massive tiers of, A team, B team, C team, all the way down to J team, whatever. But it's never been the tournament where like we need to win this tournament. It just hasn't. At least not in my recent memory. So why now? Because we've got a World Cup in a year? I don't know. Not for
I
me.
mean, not to mention on the chemistry part of it, the starting 11 really has not changed much at all over the last few years. I mean, like, how much more time do these guys need to build chemistry together? Like,
Yes.
it either works or it doesn't. Like I can hear the argument either way that like, they have built chemistry together, or like you could say that the results recently have shown that they can't build chemistry together. But it's like there's not really a question of like, do they need to build it anymore? These guys have played together for years at this point. This starting 11, it's like you can name it like off the back of your hand easily. Like there's small tweaks that change depending on like if guys are suspended or if guys are injured, but like generally it's generally the same 11 guys every single time. How much more time do they need to build chemistry together on the international level? I think they've had plenty of time to do so already. So it either works or it doesn't.
And what I'll tell you is that building chemistry against a team that is significantly less than you in terms of quality and ability doesn't usually translate. I remember we used to beat the snot out of some teams back at Alfred and even in Comac. And when we would go from there and then try and step it up the next level, it very rarely translated that well. So, I mean, unless you're saying, oh, when we get to the final against Mexico, that's still an if right now, right? You got Mexico, you got Panama, who's better than us right now. You've got Canada, who's better than us right now. So you've got a group of people who are likely to beat you. But one other comment here before I move into a different section of comments, and this is my favorite, all of them. He's such a baby. He literally gets paid for this. If he can't be with the national team now, he doesn't ever need to be near the national team in the future. And this goes down a host of comments that basically say if he doesn't want to play in the Gold Cup, leave him off the World Cup roster.
Yeah, these guys get it. They get it.
All
Let's take our
knowledge.
winger that just put 30 goal contributions for AC Milan this year. Let's just take him off the World Cup roster because he's a little baby. Take him out. Get him out of here. I don't want to see none of this. I only want hard-nosed, tough players like Clint Dempsey. Bring him out the booth. Give me him instead.
This this woke nonsense is ruining our national team. How dare you need a break? You know what? This is how we fix our culture. If you choose not to play, you never play again.
Yeah,
Are-
you should just play like 4,500 minutes this season, you know, probably tear your ACL because you've played 2,000 more minutes than you should be, and then we don't see you for the World Cup anyway.
I'm like I was reading some of that and I was like, there's got to be a satire account, and
It's
it's
probably a
not.
bot. It's probably
It's
just a
not.
bot.
It's not. I wish it was. I wish it was.
They're just trying to
Um,
rile people up then. That's how it is. Because it gets engagements,
it does. I mean, and that's
which is
that's the reason why
stupid.
you can't take U.S. men's national team Twitter seriously. You can't take any faction of Twitter seriously, right? But specifically men's national team Twitter, because they
Could
are
you
just
like let's go back to 2014, 2018 for a second. Could you imagine we had a player who was putting up almost 30 goal contributions for AC Milan? Are you kidding me? People would have their heads would have exploded. And now people are like, nah, we gotta leave him off the World Cup roster. Like, what happened? How did this fan base get so privileged?
we got spoiled. That's exactly what it was. We saw a bunch of people start playing in Europe, and it was like, well, it's not good enough. Is if you're not starting and winning every trophy for Real Madrid, nope. Look at Jude Bellingham does it, and Jude Bellingham's English,
They'd probably still say stuff about Jude too. It would only be a matter of time.
it is like legitimately the most ridiculous privileged thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, but then again, this comes from the group of people, and I'm not, and I've been trying this year really hard not to just group everybody into one, right? But this comes from a large group of people who just play FIFA, see ratings, and are like, guy can't be good. He doesn't have a rare gold card. He's only non-rare. I'm like, sorry, can't have him. And guess what? Oh, you're rare, but you're not even a board. You don't even walk out. You must not be good. Do I even do walkouts anymore? I haven't played FIFA in like years.
Walk out of my team more like.
But no, just absolutely like the bottom of the barrel brain dead comment. Like, and it's again, it's not the worst one, right? Or not the only one rather, right? You know, people are saying take away the number 10 from him, take away the armband, like you don't dodge national team duty after the Nations League, like you don't get to do all this stuff. And I remember making this comment to a buddy of mine. We were talking about this. This is coming from people likely tweeting from like a desk job who haven't moved more than 10,000 steps in 3 days, right? And this guy has played 120 games over the last 2 years and is like, hey guys, if you want me to be fresh for the World Cup, maybe give me a little bit of time off now. And they're like, nope, he's entitled. He's a bad captain to abandon the team. When's the last time Pulisic played in the Gold Cup, by the way? Hold on, I now want to
Has
check
he
this because
ever?
would this be his
Maybe when
first
he
Gold
first
Cup?
started. That's the only
Yeah,
time I.
he might have gotten in when he was like a teenager, right? But like again, this is never a Christian Pulisic tournament. Never has been.
It's not a
That's by
starters
count.
tournament, period.
No, it's
It's just
not.
not. Not anymore, at least. Maybe it used to be.
No, and again, I can hear this whole thing is like, oh, we're getting into the World Cup. We need everybody to play all together. Sure, maybe, but
Do it for the
realistically, right?
friendlies.
Yeah, at the
That's
end of
why
the
you.
day,
That's why
like
you schedule friendlies.
yeah, but even then, like you really need to worry about it leading up to the tournament proper, not a year in advance. I mean, look at what Qatar did in 2018. They pulled their entire team out, put them in their own Qatari league, made them play every day together for 5 years, and got bounced in the group. So
Yeah, they were
what does
awful.
that tell you?
Should be a good lesson for these fans, but no.
Qualifiers, friendlies, Copa America, Centenario, qualifiers, friendly. Oh, he was not in the squad for the 2017 Gold Cup. He did play in the Gold Cup in 2019, where we lost to Mexico, and he didn't play in 21.
So you play once.
And he didn't play in 23 either. So he played in one Gold Cup tournament back when he was, which 2019. How old is he right now? He
2 years
is
ago, he was probably like
26. So
20.
he was 20 years old. He couldn't even drink. And man, that was the last time he played in a Gold Cup. He couldn't celebrate making a final. Uh, so yeah. To make it long story short, no, we're not kicking Christian Pulisic out of the team because he decided not to play in Gold Cup. Nor should we. And if that is your opinion, go touch grass. Maybe kick a
Please
soccer
do.
ball for
Please
the
do
first
touch
time.
grass.
Maybe kick a soccer ball for the first time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you start kicking a soccer ball, you can replace Pooley on the national team,
Yeah,
and then you can make sure that you
you're
never
there.
miss a game, no matter what.
This is this is another funny one. Somebody compared him to Lamine Yamal at 17 years old. Pulisic has played 100 matches in 2 years. Lamine Yamal at 17 has played 104, and he has more international appearances. It's a 7 year difference, guys. Like, no, it's more than that. It's like it's 9 years. Do you understand how much your body changes in 9 years? When I was 17, I could do anything I wanted within reason, of course. I wasn't a super freak athlete, but I would be able to go and play soccer without stretching. Now I can't play soccer on a 7v7 pitch for 70 minutes without not being able to walk the next 2 days. Like, and he's an athlete, right? Like I mean, I'm an athlete too, but different levels. One day Christian will be like me, but like over 10 years, a ton of things can change. And Pulisic has had injuries before, and these comparisons are so silly. One or two more here before we wrap this up. This comment came out that if Milan was in the Club World Cup, which is happening at the same time, he would have played for Milan. But when it comes to the national team, he needs to rest. 1 year away from the World Cup, we need, the national team is supposed to be everything to this guy, but he's choosing not to play. Do you think he would have played? I mean, obviously he would have played if it was a Club World Cup, but do you think that's the right mindset?
Yeah, it's the Gold Cup. I mean, come on, people, like wrap your heads around it. Just because it's an international competition doesn't mean that it's one that needs to have the A team every single time. He just did Copa America. He did Nations League, at least from what I remember. Give the guy a break. Like he does not need to be here for Gold Cup. He's been here once, and the couple of years where he wasn't here and the US was at their best, he wasn't at the Gold Cup. So maybe that's what we need. Keep him away from the Gold Cup.
Literally. I'll combine this with another comment that this same one that I just read with another comment saying that his season upcoming is really easy. He has no European commitments. All he has to do is worry about the league and the cup. So he should have played this tournament. For
I
me,
mean,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. For
no,
me,
no, no, go for it.
this is the wrong mindset to have, right? Oh, you can just play one more tournament. Oh, you can just play one more here because it's going to be easier as you go up. You're still playing 6 days a week with Milan. You're traveling all across Italy. You're going to play in these cups and whatever. You're still playing 6 days a week. Is it a bit easier? Sure, but you're not like it's not like you're walking around the pitch and not doing anything. I think Pulisic and his not his agent, they saw this, and yeah, if the Club World Cup was here, you're absolutely right. He's playing here. Why? Just going back to what we spoke about before, they pay him. That's his job. They told him to.
He'd
The
probably get a
national team.
crazy bonus if they did well too,
Oh,
considering how much money's in there.
well, and we know that, right? And there are no caps on that bonus, to my understanding. So yeah, he's going to get paid nicely there, right? But this is the mindset where it was okay. They were probably stressing over the idea that okay, we've got Gold Cup, we've got 2 weeks after Gold Cup to rest and relax, and then we go right to Milan and we do it again, and we play all the way through Milan. Milan season goes up to the summer of the World Cup, and we're right back in it again, right? Because I don't believe they'll have any long-term breaks before then. Maybe I'm wrong there. I'm not sure. Somebody can tell me that.
By the
They
way, even if
Good.
you took out European games this season, he still played 40 times for Milan this year
Isn't that insane?
and
That's
almost
crazy.
3,000 minutes.
And from what I read, again, I'm not watching Milan week in and week out, but from what I read, his role as a right wing player was both sides of the ball. He was going touchline to touchline. I mean, he was defending as a right wing back and he was attacking as a winger. So I mean, he's covering record miles for his career.
But
But
easy season coming up.
yeah, don't worry. You only get to do that once a week or twice a week. You're okay. This is to me where they said, okay, we're gonna have to find a way to manage ourselves and limit our injuries, right? Because that's the other thing too is injuries are a real thing, guys, right? If you are overused, you're gonna get hurt, and the last thing you want is for him to get seriously injured. So then they see this break and they go, okay, listen, we can ask to not play the Gold Cup, which we shouldn't have been in anyway. And again, the majority of the first team isn't here. You can pick and choose certain players who might be involved, sure, but the majority of them aren't here. And then we can prepare for this easy Milan season coming up. And then we can go into the World Cup a bit more fresh. Or we can push it, and see what happens. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Right? At the end of the day, would I rather him play in a Gold Cup that at the end, by all means, if we won it, it would have been okay, good. It's just the Gold Cup. Or if we lose it, it's sound the alarms. I can't believe we lost a Gold Cup. There's no winning this. It's never good enough at the Gold Cup, right? So then we go and we say, okay, I'm okay with him taking this break because at the end of the day, now he's got 4 months to recover from Milan, or three, or not 4 months. I'm sorry, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it may be, instead of 1 or 2. Rest his legs, recover, get a bit stronger, get a bit healthier, have a better chance of getting through the season healthy at Milan, and then go to the World Cup at a higher level than he would have been had he done and played this tournament. Because, I mean, the signs of overuse are just lining up, right? All the games that we're talking about, the play style. I mean, I didn't do a lot of sports science when I was the grad assist up at Alfred, but I did a little bit with our fitness trackers, and it was like there's a ratio that you use for working energy versus kind of like casual calm energy. And if what I'm reading is true, where you've got end line to end line, you're running all this time, that value is probably through the roof, which is kind of like the it's not a telltale sign, but it's a little asterisk that says, hey, you might want to watch this kid because he might get hurt. Now here we are, and it's like, okay, now we're mad that he's going to do that because he wants to make sure he's ready for the World Cup. Not for me.
Yeah, could you imagine he got a serious injury at the Gold Cup? The
Oh my
the
God.
the whole narrative would just change. You would just be destroying Pochettino. You'd be like, why would you bring him for this meaningless Gold Cup? And now we're losing Pulisic possibly for the World Cup, or maybe he's just coming back from a serious injury right before the World Cup. Like, why would you do this for this stupid cup?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the last one here is, I guess, less to the Pulisic himself, but to the team as a whole, and saying that the captain of the team picking and choosing when he gets to play is a it's a statement on the entire group that's saying the Gold Cup is optional and the national team is optional and it's second rate. Your thoughts on that, and we'll end it on that.
I think I might be coming in with little bit of a hot take to end things off here, but if it's not Copa America, World Cup qualifying, the World Cup itself, or maybe like a Nations League final, I feel like the guy has earned the right to decide when he wants to take some games off within reason. I'm not saying he should be able to like take off every game, but this guy has done so much for this national team. Even despite all the struggles, I feel like he is consistently one of, if not the best player on the field every time. He has literally carried this national team on his back for years. If he wants to take off for a Gold Cup, I don't care. He has earned the right to do that. Genuinely. If he wants to miss a couple friendlies, I don't care. He has earned the right to do that. He's carried this national team for years, and genuinely, I don't know what the national team would look like without him. He was the one to kickstart this movement, to really like kickstart this like insane wealth of talent going into the national team. And if he were to retire from the national team tomorrow, in my mind, he'd go down as one of the best, maybe even the best national team player ever. Like he has done so much for this national team. He's earned it like above and beyond in my eyes.
Do I say he's earned it? I mean, I'm not judging him for it, that's for sure. However, this idea that you earn when you pick and choose, I can understand people being upset with that because they see the national team as above and beyond, right? So again, and I guess to round this all off, right? I understand that there are two viewpoints to this. There are club over country or country over club, right? The people who say that your country's national team should come before your club team are going to be lit and they're going to be angry and they're going to be upset. Sure, the people who are out there, and I don't even think saying like, oh, country over club doesn't make sense. It should always be club over country, and he should pick and choose whenever he. I don't agree with that necessarily either. What I do agree with is the fact that if you understand that your body can't do it, it's better to let somebody who's at 100% go than it is to allow you to go at 75% or 50% and then get the roasting from the online Twitter sphere anyway, saying, oh, he doesn't even look like he's trying, like what, does he even care to be here, blah blah blah. You're going to get the small end of the stick anyway. So I don't mind his decision, though I won't necessarily agree with your thought that he's earned it, like he earns when he gets to pick and choose. I don't think anybody's above picking and choosing when he goes, but I do think that I don't think it's a problem that he asked them to consider him not to be a part of it. Because I think if they said, no, we're going to take you anyway, I think he still plays. I don't think he turns down the call. I think he asked out of respect and said, hey, I really I need a break here because I'm dying and I'm tired and I want to make sure I'm at the best of my best, whatever. If they had said, no, we still need you here, we want to win the Gold Cup and I think he goes. I don't think he says thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to turn it down. That's kind of where I'm at, and I think that's the roundabout way for me.
I still stick by that. If he for something like the Gold Cup, if he came in and said if he turned down an opportunity to come to the team, I would not blame him at all. I'd be totally fine with it. That's where I feel like he has earned the right to do so. Whereas
Like,
like not saying like the guys that are in the team right now haven't like earned the right to do so, but it's like if you're on the cusp of like kind of being involved in the team and you're turning down an opportunity to come play, you may not get another call again. But Pooley will get the phone call the next time, no matter what. He's probably the first person Poch calls when he's bringing people onto the team. But like someone like, Jack McGlynn, this is an opportunity you got to take and you got to go out there and, try to make a name for yourself with the national team. If you turn down the call, you may not get these chances in the future, or you may not get as many chances in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, like I said, I think he definitely has more leadway being where he's at, but I don't think that's in his mindset. I think he asked out of respect and out of like courtesy to be like, hey, listen, just consider maybe not taking me. And we didn't even dive into this, but Pochettino and U.S. Soccer, some are saying threw Christian Pulisic under the bus, saying, that conversation was private and you very easily could have just said, yep, we're choosing not to take him because he's had all these minutes and it was our decision. But instead, they went out and said, oh, he came to us and said he didn't want to play, which I think is a whole nother thing that we can go down. I don't want to go down it today because I think it can open up a whole rabbit hole of stuff because then that gets into the coaching staff and the front office and things that I don't know as much about. But the way they handled that too, we might not be having this conversation if they handled it differently.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't want to dive down that road, but that would be a very interesting discussion to have.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's something I need to do a little bit more research on. This was more of us just hopping on with the news that broke today and talking about it. So we would need to do a little bit more research on that. But I think we end it there. I think we got a good couple of reactions there, and we'll move on from there. But I want to thank everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. We really haven't talked USMNT in a while, but with Gold Cup coming up and with World Cup coming up, we'll probably be talking about them quite a bit here in the near future. So make sure you give us a follow wherever you get your podcasts. When those episodes go live. Make sure you're following us on social media. It's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's TikTok, it's Blue Sky. We're all over the place. Come interact with us because that's what we're here to do, man. So thanks so much for listening again. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS Podcast. See ya.